I now have a friend that I've known a long time. I can't even remember when me and Cindy Cashman first met, but it was in the mid-90s. And she has done some really awesome, incredible stuff. Everyone is going to get a copy of her book, which is now in its 25th year anniversary, worldwide bestseller, Fully Revealed: The Shocking Truth, Everything Men Know About Women, not by Cindy Cashman, but by Dr. Alan Francis, in consultation with Cindy Cashman, okay? And so if you've never seen this book before, Everything Men Know About Women, I got to read the back. It says, famed psychologist Alan Francis, in collaboration with renowned behavioralist Cindy Cashman, has written the landmark book on men's understanding of the most complex of creatures, women, which I would agree with. Based on years of research and interviews with thousands of men from all over walks of life, he presents the most complete picture ever revealed of men's knowledge of the opposite sex. Fiercely frank and brilliantly insightful, this work spells out everything men know about such topics as making friends with women, romancing women, achieving emotional intimacy with women, making commitments to women, satisfying women in bed. Okay, and then when you open up the book, it is completely blank, which is absolutely fantastic. She also has a book that I just read on my Kindle in the last 2 days, and it's very short. It's called The $1 Million Question Handbook, and there's all kinds of questions for relationships and general life questions, work questions, spiritual questions, wonder questions, 4 questions you can ask to save money, acting on the answers, and so I can share during discussion some of the questions I came up with. But Cindy's written, you don't even know how many books you've read. She's been an author for many years. She's made millions of dollars with this, but she's going to actually talk about something that she really that's really dear to her and what I feel would be incredibly useful for 25K members, which is intuition. So give it up for my friend Cindy Cashman.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Intuition. An actor at the peak of his success was offered a sci-fi script that he did not like. He thought the script appalling, but his intuition urged him to meet with the producer. The young producer offered him a skimpy salary and 2.5% of unknown future profits. He didn't like the script and didn't think he had any reason to take it, but his intuition urged him on, so he agreed to it. The producer, George Lucas. The actor, Sir Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The movie Star Wars and its 2 sequels amassed well over $500 million in the United States alone. This is the power of intuition. How many of you are interested in learning more about your intuition? Good, okay. I have been using intuition for years, and the process I use is simple, but as you know, don't overcome or overlook simplicity. Step 1, breathe. Step 2, ask a question that you want to know the answer to. Step 3, pay attention to your body's feedback. Your body knows and will give you answers. George Soros, a financial genius, in his book talked about how he used his body for feedback with his investments. Whenever he got a backache, that was his clue or signal to go check his portfolio. And he would do that. So we all have a way that our body speaks to us. For me, when I ask a question, I tune in to my solar plexus right here. Some will tune into their heart. And I'll get a calm feeling if the answer is yes. And I'll get like a pain in my gut if the answer is no. I'm going to share a little bit of my story with you. When I was 21 years old, I didn't learn to read until I was 21 years old. And a lot of people ask, how could that be? I was the female star athlete at my school, gymnastics and diving in every sport there was, and the first woman to go to state competition. And then on the drive to a racquetball tournament, I was hit by a drunk driver, my car was totaled, and I was in a neck brace for 6 months. That was my wake-up call for me that I needed help, so I hired a tutor to teach me how to read. And then once I learned how to read, I think I read like 200 books that year on motivation, inspiration, read all of Zig Ziglar's books and all that. Fast forward a few years, I was in a job I did not like, and I quit my job to sell my blank book. And as you know, everybody said I was crazy. And within 3 years, I went from being broke to being prosperous. I went from living in a 900 square foot apartment to a 5,000 square foot home. And my favorite thing is I went from being called crazy to brilliant. Not bad for someone who learned to read when I was 21. What made the difference? I trusted my gut. I trusted my feeling, even though everybody else said I was crazy. When I did the book, I love asking questions. All I did was ask myself 2 questions. Number 1, who's my market? Women. Number 2, where do they go? Shopping, clothing stores. So I proceeded to sell my book by the thousands to clothing stores. And in 3 years, I had sold 1.3 million books out of my garage and became one of the most successful publishers in the country. And then a few years after that, I sold the rights to 10 of my books to a major publisher, and then retired and traveled. I went to 32 countries and had fun and played games. And now my passion is teaching people intuition. I am going to share a couple of my favorite stories with my book that, again, by asking questions, enabled me to sell a whole lot of books. One morning I got up, and I love jumping on my trampoline. I was jumping on my trampoline, and I said, who can I have fun selling to today? And I thought, well, I was living in San Diego at the time, and I thought, well, I'll call Camp Pendleton, the United States Marines, Camp Pendleton. So I got on the phone, called the buyer, and the buyer said, you're a one-book publisher. You're wasting your time. I said, I'll take my chance. So I went in and met with him. I showed him the book, and I think by this time I had already sold at least 250,000 books. I showed him the book, he looked at it, and he literally said, I don't get it. He said, is it a notebook? Well, I was so shocked because nobody had ever said anything like that to me before. So I had to think quick, and all I did is I said, well, please show it to your boss. Well, 3 days later, I got a call from him, and he said, I cannot believe it. We are ordering your book for the PXs. My boss is a woman. Another story is I had sent the book off. Again, I would ask myself questions, who can I have fun? And again, I focused on selling by the thousands. They came in boxes of 100 or 96, depending what printer I used. And every day, who can I sell to? And I'd mastermind. And one day I sent it off to this party plan company. Her name was Anne Marie. And I'd call Anne Marie, and she would say to me, I don't know. And I would follow up week after week. And finally, 6 months later, I just said, okay, Anne Marie, believe it or not, I can handle a no. And I can handle a yes. It's the I don't know that I'm having a really hard time with. What do I need to do to be able to sell to your company? So I asked her, and because I asked that question, I gave her permission to tell me. And she said, Cindy, we want our own book. We want your name nowhere on the book. We want our president's name on it. We want our company name on it, our company logo. And I said, awesome. I said, I will FedEx you something. You will have it by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. I literally got out a 8.5 by 11 plain sheet of paper, and I got my son's color crayons. And I just sketched the front and back cover with their logo, the president's name, and I FedExed 2 sheets of paper. I called her the next morning at 10. Does anybody want to take a guess what their first order was?
100,000 copies.
Well, 25,000, their first order. Okay, that was because I asked a question. What do I need to do to sell to you? In fact, when I called the clothing stores, a lot of them would say, you read these books, and they would say, oh, if you're a publisher, the rules are this. And I knew nothing about the publishing business, and I do believe that's why I was a big success, is I knew nothing about it. So when I called the clothing stores, I wanted it on their gift table. And I would say, what price do you need to have it at? What price do I, and they were all non-returnable. So that was really a lot of fun. And I got, lots and lots of stories. The main thing about intuition, there is some barriers, And one of the barriers is when you're too busy to hear, your life is too busy, you got so much going on that it's literally really hard for you to tune in. For example, I was having dinner with a VP of a major publishing company, and he had asked me my opinion on a book. And I told him, I said, I don't like it. For some reason, I just don't feel that it's going to sell right. And then his wife, or sell very well, and his wife started laughing. And I looked at her and I said, I don't understand. What's so funny? And she said, nobody has ever disagreed with my husband before. He's this big VP. He is surrounded by yes people. They only tell him what he wants to hear. And so he would call me and say, Cindy, will you tell me what's your opinion on this? So he used me as a sounding board. And where I'm at right now in my life, my passion is teaching and coaching, being a coach on intuition. Use me as a sounding board because I want to tell you what I feel. I don't care if you like it or not, because I'm not here to give you a yes answer or tell you what you want to hear. I want to tell you what I feel, and then of course it's always up to you to do what you want to do. So again, the three main points is breathe, ask a question you want an answer to, and pay attention, tune into your body's feedback, and find out how your body votes for me or votes for you. In fact, when I was talking to Mike yesterday at lunch, he was sharing that when he had cancer, that was when he learned to really start tuning in to his body and finding out how his body responds to different situations. So the main key point I want you to take away is trust your gut. You do know the answer. You just have to trust it more. Take time, spend time more in nature, get away, have fun, because they say, when you're out on the golf course or you're out doing fun, oftentimes that's when the answer will pop in, when you least expect it. So, trust your gut. I'm at 10 minutes.
Wow, that was like perfect timing. So
Oh.
anyone have any questions for Cindy?
One thing I missed. So you didn't learn how to read until you're 21?
Correct.
And why was that?
Because I was the #1 female athlete, and so my whole life was athletics. I did every sport there was. I was the first female to go to state competition. I dove 1 meter, 3 meter platform. I golfer, everything. You name it, I did it.
And your parents just was like, they were just cool with that, or you just started doing athletics so early that?
Yeah, at age 7, my twin sister and I were halftime entertainment at the homecoming show in a small town in Minnesota, and we walked across the football field on our hands. So, and I was twirling. What? Oh, a small town in Minnesota.
Which one?
Anoka.
I know Anoka.
Okay.
I'm from Minnesota.
Okay, so Anoka. And so we were literally halftime entertainment, and my mom had us twirling batons on water skis by age 7. I used to climb on top of men and do the pyramids, and barefoot jump the jumps. I mean, you name it. We did it all. So that was my life. I never once watched TV. And so when I was in the neck brace for 6 months, I thought, it's not me to watch TV. So I guess, okay, it's time for me to learn how to read. And so I knew I had a problem. But, I know another story I was going to share with you. Another barrier that it is we get so busy that we ignore the warning signs. For example, I was on my computer so much that my right shoulder, my right arm would hurt so bad. And there's the days I would be crying. And I ignored it. I kept ignoring it until one morning I woke up, I could not move my right arm. I spent $10,000 going to different doctors. And the first doctor said to me, Cindy, you need to learn pain management. And I thought, what the hell is pain management? But now I know if something hurts, that's your body telling you, stop. Maybe I'm sitting wrong, maybe I got to get up and stretch more. And so I have learned, it's a process to learn to trust your feedback. Your body will give you signs, like, Joe with your shoulder. We got to take time to pay attention to what our body tells us. So when we need rest or sleep, like what you're sharing about the lady coming out with the book, she knew she was exhausted, she ignored the warning signs, and it ended up costing her. And I know all of you here could give me stories and examples of when you listened to your intuition and it was super successful, and times when you did not listen that it cost you money.
How do people, what's the #1 mistake or barrier where people don't plug into their intuition?
They're too busy. They don't take the time to ask the question and tune in and pause. Just literally pause and tune in. How do I feel if I hire this new employee? How do I feel if I sell out to this company? In fact, when I wanted to, sell out, I just, picked a company that felt good, and that's who I sold to. I mean, it really can be easy when you're following your intuition. It doesn't have to be a lot of work. In fact, I think you know that about me, Joe. I'm into easy and fun. If it's not fun, I'm not interested in doing it. So, and intuition, I go where the doors open for me. Tuesday night, Joe called me at around 7 or 8 p.m. I was here Wednesday. Literally.
Speed of implementation.
Now, another thing I'm just going to show, one other story. I do love to meditate, and when I was meditating, I asked, the number one question I get asked is, how do you know it's intuition instead of wishful thinking? So I asked, is there a story that's so simple that I can share? And the story that popped into my mind was, how do you know when you're hungry? You feel it. You don't get on the phone and call Bill, George, Henry, or Sue and say, hey, Sue, am I hungry? You literally feel it. So, again, trust your gut. Go ahead.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm curious to know your thoughts on, some people call it the universe, divine. What role does that play versus you're feeling in kind of just yourself coming up with those answers, realizations, versus tapping into it? Is it intuition a source? Is it?
Well, if I had a board, I'd be drawing a circle, because that's an excellent question. I draw a circle and say, this is my comfort zone. Everything I know is within this thing. No, that's fine. Because everything out here would be like the universe, the whatever. And another story was when I was meditating, I had this thought popped in to get married in outer space. Get married in space. And I thought, what? I didn't even have a boyfriend at the time. And so, and where did that idea come from? That idea did not come within my circle because it was not even in my conscious memory. It didn't even exist in my realm of possibility. So to me, a lot of the intuition, which I call quickened thoughts, flashes of genius, comes from outside your norm. And so, and then the story with that is when a few months after that, I met my fiance, and when he asked me to marry him, I said, hey, by the way, I want to get married in space. And he said, yeah, right. And then I signed a deal with Rocket Plane for us to be the first couple to get married in space. We were supposed to get married in 2007, then 8, then 9, and then, the financial thing in 08, and then it didn't happen. And they came, so anyways, a few years ago, my husband said, I really don't want to wait anymore. Let's just get married. So a week later, we were married. So
I've noticed in the way you talk that you talk about extraordinary things as though they're very ordinary for you.
They are.
And I'm wondering if that happened when you started to lean into your intuition, or if that's something that's just normal for you. Because, for example, when Mike asked you the question, why did you not learn to read?
Mm-hmm.
And you described the extraordinary, and by the way, that's actually a more common problem than people know. I actually read an article the other day about how professional athletes everywhere just simply don't get the basic education.
Right.
Because they're performing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But as you described that, it's obvious you've lived an extraordinary life from the beginning, but when did you really start to develop this ability to just be totally comfortable talking about things that you know are extraordinary as though they're normal for you because they are? When did you really start to lean into that?
Well, actually, I felt I used to scare people away when I was so intuitive that it was really hard for me to share. And I had, one of the questions I asked myself, at the start of a new year, it's 2014, what am I going to do different this year that I've never done before? And actually it was last year that I decided that I'm going to honor who I am and step into who I am. And who I am intuitive. That is my gift. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. And I just know that I'm the happiest when I listen, trust, and act on my intuition, ask questions, listen, trust, and act on my intuition. And I can go really far out there. And I love coming out with absolutely outrageous questions. I think it was a few years ago I said, hey, how can I access the energy of a beam of light? And I actually started getting the Fibonacci sequence and recorded it in my journal. So my gift, and I love, is coming up with outrageous questions and writing down my answers I receive.
It's wonderful.
So do you teach people how to have intuition?
Well, everyone has it.
But how to use it is what I'm
how to use it. Yes, and then and then I also use me as a sounding board. Like if they have business decisions or if they got too much going on, and use me as a sounding board. What do you feel about this? But I feel my gift is what I'm here is to teach people to trust and honor their own intuition.
On Wall Street, there was a famous guy. Actually, Stevie Cohen had him working very tightly with his traders at SAC Capital, and he would work with them about the psychology of trading and their bodies and tuning in with their feelings and all this, and a lot of it I would imagine has to do with intuition.
Yes.
I wonder if your skills would be helpful to guys in that profession.
It would be, because I tune into the financial markets a lot.
So every time they have to do it, should I buy it?
Well, and it's not that extreme, but I do get a lot of financial data.
That was going to be my question, was around your, you talk about intuition. Everybody has intuition.
Yes.
My wife would tell you maybe I don't have that much, but so you feel like that is a gift for you, that you are gifted in that area.
Well, everyone has an intuition. I feel it's one of my stronger gifts as far as that I do see, hear, and feel things, and I've allowed myself to open up to it more, where, a lot of people say women are more intuitive than men. I think women may just be a little bit more open to it, but we all have it. And, it's accessing the right side, the creative side of the brain instead of the logical, constantly, okay, because intuition, according to Webster's, is an immediate knowing without reasoning. So sometimes I'll come up with something and it will be very hard for men because there's no reason to it. I want proof. Why did you say this won't work? And I don't have proof. It's just a gut feeling. Mike.
You read Power versus Force by David Hawkins?
I have.
Okay. Because it's, if you're not familiar with his work, it deeply resonates with everything you're talking about. And he actually provides kind of an evidence-based structure that's been split tested and proven in group situations, and it will defy logic if you're not familiar with his work.
Tell us again.
Power versus Force by David Hawkins. It's a very fast, easy read, and it really is based on a lot of its muscle feedback.
Sure.
Which is about
Your body
using
knows.
Your body
Right.
precisely. And essentially, the basic core is that by asking a powerful question, and learning how to read your own muscle feedback, the universe, God, whatever you choose
Right.
to decide, will in fact give you a yes or no answer to anything. And I've worked with quite a few energetic healers as well as people who are intuitive healers essentially, and they
Muscle testing.
Yes, muscle testing, yeah, and they'll show it, prove it, and work with you this way. And of course, the best way is to learn how to listen to your own body.
Yeah, and there's another book also by Malcolm, who can help me. What's his, yeah. Which one, who said it? Blink, yeah, How to Think Without Thinking. And his very first chapter, he talks about how I believe, if I remember the story correctly, at the Malibu Museum, they had spent, I don't know if it was $100 million on a painting, and then they brought in all these experts to look at the painting to see if it was real or not. And one lady came in, and within like a fraction of a second, she says it's fake. And nobody, they brought in all these experts. Long story short, they found out it was a fake. But they kept asking, how did she know? And there it goes back. Intuition is in the moment. It's moment by moment. Trust your flashes of genius, your quickened thoughts. Pay attention to coincidences. And it's a fun way to live.
Yeah, I remember what David did is he would get literally rooms of hundreds, if not thousands of people together who would muscle test giant questions, and it's crazy fascinating work. So check it out. There's actually a couple videos. He's still alive. On YouTube.
Yeah, he's good.
Oh, it's
He's
still
good.
live on YouTube. So,
Did he just pass?
He passed away a few months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I've met him a couple times. He
Alright.
lived in Sedona.
All right.
Yeah, I went to one of the last conferences he ever did.
So cool. Yeah, he's
Wonderful.
pretty
Okay.
out there, but great stuff.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
I have a question. If we all have intuition,
Uh-huh.
and most of us don't listen to it, what about the other extreme of someone who's got like hyper intuition? Just
They used to
constantly
burn those.
bombarded.
Well, and that can happen. And so I've had to learn down to shut off certain things and only tune into what I really want the answer to. So, because you can be bombarded with too much.
Especially having to listen to his questions.
So I did, everybody has a copy. My husband FedExed the books, so everybody gets a copy of my blank book. Use it as an inspiration, pass it on to somebody, because what I did is when I did this, I actually bought the pet rock because the pet rock was a big deal. And I thought, if that guy can sell, and make $1 million off a frickin' pet rock, I can do that off a blank book.
That's
So
great.
I did it.
What was the most difficult chapter to get through?
Yeah, page 33.
For you, the cover.
One more question.
My intuition just tells me I should share 2 words with you, and it's intrinsic confidence, and that's what I feel when you communicate. And I feel in working with men and women, intuition scares men off, but the way you communicate is intrinsic confidence, and that might be a term that, how do you develop that? How do men develop that? Might be interesting to explore. And the question I have is how you discern nervous energy from no energy.
Nervous energy from no energy.
energy. You said when you get no energy. It's like
Oh, the
that's
no
a-
energy is calm. A calmness. So when you start to do it, it's like going to the gym when you work out. Like Joe was saying earlier, you got to use the equipment. You can't just go and look at it. So when you start to ask your body questions and pay attention, you're going to learn how your body speaks to you. So a yes vote for me is when I'm real calm, when I feel good about something. A no vote would be if anger, frustration comes up, or a pain in the gut. That's my body's telling me, hey, don't go this direction.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And a little bit later, when we have just some open sort of Mad Lab time, just one last thing. This is a smart marketing strategy too. When you were first selling the book, people had to buy it. They couldn't buy onesie twosies. They had to buy bundles of 100.
Correct.
Why?
Why? Because I didn't want to tear apart the box. I didn't. And actually, when a woman would call and say, I would like to buy one book, I would say, I'm sorry, I don't sell by one. But if you have at least 10 women, more than likely each 10 women will want 10. There's your box of 100. And every single one I converted to sell a box of 100. But my focus was not individual people. It was focused on companies. And do you want me to share one other story?
Sure.
Okay, one other story is when I came out. No, when
What am I gonna say? No.
Well,
Okay.
I trust it will help.
Yeah. Okay.
I had came out with another book, and I had called a clothing store, and they said, no, we're going to pass on it. So then I called another clothing store, and they said, okay, we'll test it. They took 240 books to test, and they had a 48% sell-through the first weekend. And I had to learn their language. A 48% sell-through is absolutely amazing. So when she told me that, I quick called up the first buyer from the store and told her what had happened. This other store did it and had a huge sell-through. How many do you want? She took 7,500 copies to start. And it's all because I followed up, and I didn't call her to bug her. I called her back to give her additional information.
What was the retail price of your book with no?
Oh, well, right now I think it's $4.99, so it's the price of a card, and I wanted to keep it. Oh, okay. One more story.
You're killing me here. All right, go ahead.
Well, okay, this is good. My first printing on this was 88 cents a book. And I asked myself one question: what do I need to do to get my costs down? Every 1 penny on that book, on 1 million copies sold, would net me 10,000 more in my pocket. So I called different printers, and I asked a series of questions. I love questions. If you ask my husband, everywhere I go, I'll ask questions. And I asked questions. Why, they told me 128 pages is actually cheaper than like 115 because it was done in cuts of 32. So there was all these things to learn. Right. And then I could go with newsprint, was a little cheaper. Does anybody want to guess what I got the price of the book down to?
47 cents.
Way too high. The first 10,000 was 22 cents. Every 10,000 after that was 12 cents.
Wow. With the cover?
Yes. And so you got to understand, by asking those questions made me a lot more money.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So is the reality that you really had a book with a lot of words in it, but in order to reduce the cost, you took all the words out of
No,
it?
it never had words in it.
No, you know what? But see, this is the greatest testament of like just the headline. This is, you know, this proves that it's just a great headline, right?
Mhm.
It's a great title, and it hits. It's just funny and it's intriguing, and I literally.
You bought a case. You called me up and said, I want a case of books.
And when I first bought the book, and I've never told you this, I swear this is a true story. I saw this in I can't even remember what the bookstore was called. I saw it at the front, and I literally, this is a time when I used to read like books on how to pick up women and stuff, and I've read almost all of them. And that's actually, you learn so much about marketing from the pickup world. It's just, because selling is like seduction, basically. It's all the foreplay you do before you ask, anyway. So I saw the book at a counter, not in a clothing store, but at actually.
Right, they put them at the counter.
Yeah, and I said, is this book any good? Because I was like, it's one of those books you kind of like, do I really want to buy this sort of thing? And I never even opened it, and I bought it. The girl's like, oh, I don't know. And so I'm like, all right, I'll take it. So I literally go out, and I'm like in the car, and like, I start laughing my ass off. I'm like, this is awesome. But I never even flipped it open to the book. I was like, oh yeah, of course, because what man does that, Awesome.
All right,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.